Hey there, romance readers and kinky friends. We would love to keep the discussion popping on Instagram. Head over to romance@glance to play with us and recommend our next book. And full disclosure, Like the Wind was actually our first podcast that we recorded. We're just releasing it a little bit later. So if you hear references to it being our first time, that's why. Romance at a glance. Romance at a glance.
What you saying now?
Romance at a glance.
Go ahead, girl.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Romance at a Glance, where two veteran romance readers break down some of today's new books, some of our old favorites, and some series that you may not have read before. I am Bridget.
And I am Shawnee, here for all your romance needs.
I have to tell you a little story about Shawnee. It was her idea to start this podcast, and as soon as she said, "Do you want to talk about romance novels every week?" I was like, let me clear my schedule. Yes, I do.
And trouble began.
It's not every day that you meet someone who reads as many romance novels as you do, or possibly admits to reading as many romance novels as you do.
And it's not every day that you meet someone with a dirty mind just like yours.
Two peas in a pod. So we're talking today about Like the Wind by J.
Bengtsson.
And Like the Wind is about, I'm actually going to quickly read you what it's exactly about, because this is the funniest thing I've ever read. Prepare to laugh, cry, and fall in love with this enthralling new romance from J. Bengtsson, available on audio first. When a letter comes from his supposedly deceased mother, dun dun dun, finds its way into his hands, life changes for an instant for international pop star Bawdy Beckett. And already I'm like, international pop star, where are we going with this? Reeling from the deception of those closest to him, Bawdy spirals out of control and is sent to a secluded mansion in the coastal mountains of Southern California for rest and relaxation. But the retreat proves to be anything but relaxing when a raging wildfire sets the landscape around him ablaze. I would like to say that nothing has been said about the heroine of this in the first 3 paragraphs. This is a very telling statement about this book and how it's just like, there's not a lot about them together in the first third.
I'm going to have to agree with you on this.
Yeah.
Yes.
While escaping the flames, Bawdy rescues Breeze, a quirky, pet-loving woman, and together the two fight their way to safety. In the aftermath of the fire, Bawdy and Breeze hit the road and uncover the truth about his family. What neither of them expected is to forge a powerful connection that will change their lives forever. But can it survive the real world, or will it disappear? Like the wind.
Like the wind.
Yeah. And I did not read the description before we chose this book. And I wish that I had, because I feel like I would have been more mentally prepared for what this book was about. And I don't feel like I understood fully what I was getting into.
I purposely didn't read the description because sometimes I feel like they make me biased at this point, and I kind of wanted to be surprised. And I was surprised.
Yeah.
I was very surprised.
So did you think, okay, so let's just dive right in. Did you think at the very beginning, in the opening, prologue, I'll call it, did you think that this was going to be a thriller where they were escaping people trying to kill them or kidnap them or something like that?
Yeah, I definitely thought something more exciting was going to be coming after them, or that they were going through.
Right.
And I definitely thought, I don't know how I felt about the book opening the way that it did.
Yeah.
Because it got you all excited for something that, I was like, why? There was no purpose in making this the first scene.
Yeah. So it opens with a flash forward of them in a car together, and they're racing down this hill, and a burning tree falls in their way. And then they both realize that they have to drive past it to survive. And he leans back and he's like, "What's your name?" And she's like, "Breeze." And then he goes, "Like the wind?" And I'm like, what? No one says that. No one says, your name is Bawdy. Your name's not Chris. You can't judge other people's names. And then they decide to go, and that's how the book starts. So I literally was thinking, oh shit, this is going to be a romance thriller. He's saving her from someone who's trying to kill her or kidnap her, or she has information. Someone has information about someone, and it is so not at all the story.
And in fact, spoiler alert, they met minutes before this moment. Yes.
Minutes.
And they had such a connection.
They did.
In this moment. It's
did.
like where they fell.
I mean, this tagline, which is also an actual line of the book, was maybe we were meant to be, meant to protect each other, meant to fall in love.
Oh, Bridget.
And I was like, what? What now? I mean, I'm all for people falling in love quickly in romance novels because I want to like get to the good stuff. But
there's got to be a better, I feel like there's got to be.
Yeah. I mean, they kind of had like the danger element, I guess, because they escaped the burning buildings and like she's saving all these animals and stuff.
But she's also like bleeding from her head.
Yes.
Like, and has a giant like lump and concussion.
Yes. Yes. And she has like 8 animals that she has recently saved.
Including rats.
Yeah. And while I commend her, and I do think that the author did put an appropriate amount of him like teasing her about saving all these animals. Because if he had just accepted that as normal, I would have been like, this is the dumb. But at least he was constantly like, you really had to go back for the fish? Like, but he found it very endearing, whereas I would have been like, oh, you're a crazy person.
You're a crazy person. Those animals would have got left so fast.
So fast. I mean, I would have maybe taken the dog.
Yeah.
But not the bad dog. I would have taken the good dog.
I would have left the bad dog.
The shitty dog, I would have been like, you're on your own, bitch. Bite me one more time. I'm going to burn up in a fire. I'm not even kidding. When she's like letting him bite her while carrying him out, I would have been like, nah,
no,
you're on your own.
No.
Not today.
This is why we can't have nice things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an insane thing. But in general, this book was, again, having not read the description ahead of time, what actually falls into a new category of romance called new adult.
New adult.
Had you heard of new adult before this book?
I hadn't, but after Googling it, I found out that it is adult fiction from 18 to 30. So when you are a new adult, this book is for you.
Yes. And I discovered that I am not a new adult.
Nope. And
I prefer young adult or actual romance. Like, I don't want to be in this weird in-between zone where... Well, why don't you just tell them when the first sex scene comes along? Maybe this will just point them in the direction.
The first sex scene comes along kind of at the end of chapter 11. And I say kind of because they super gloss over it. Like, they start to do a little something, and then it's just over. And chapter 12 starts. And so by chapter 11, I needed to come in before chapter 11. And... And they also needed to be a bit steamier. They address it by doing a flashback of the sex scene in chapter 12, which I'm just like, why didn't you just tell me the sex scene in chapter 11? Why didn't you just do the sex scene?
Yeah.
Why do I need a flashback of the sex scene?
Yeah, like I would have preferred if we got the sex scene in chapter 11 because it's from one character's point of view.
Yeah.
And then chapter 12 was the other character reliving that sex scene. That I'm about.
I'm about that.
I'm about that. But yeah, it was very it was like a movie where it's like, and then we were stroking and we had sex and then we woke up and you're like, what about all the in between?
What about all the in between? And this is when my favorite line comes in. Okay. This is my favorite line. So the line is, then I was on top of her. We're doing this? She hadn't wanted to have sex. I mean, that's romance gold right there.
I do appreciate that he asked for verbal consent.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't happen that often in romance novels. However, yeah, it was just like, yeah, it was almost like they were both like virgins having sex for the first time. Like, it almost felt like if they had been 18, I would have been like, oh my God, this is so sweet. But I'm like, you're 25-year-old, like, or 27 or whatever they are. Like, she's already had a fiance at one point. Like, he's already, he's an international pop star. He's already slept with people.
So there should definitely have been some, a little spanking.
Or just more description. Because my thing about that scene was, and I didn't write down this exact wording, but the author literally said something like, and he kissed me in all the right places. And I'm like, bitch, tell me which ones.
So many places.
Which ones? I mean, was it the expected places or some unexpected places? Was it hard? Was it rough? Was it fast? Was it
exactly? Was there a little nip? Was there not? I mean,
yeah.
I
And
think
their
we're
sex-
all adults here. I know we're new adults.
Yeah.
But we're all adults here.
Yeah, and their sex scene the next morning was also incredibly
Weak.
It was just like there's no detail.
She was like, I got on top and I took control.
And I'm like, and did what?
Like,
Felt what?
touched what?
Yeah. Like even because like I mean,
said what?
I've read some some romance novels where they're not super graphic about the like who's touching who where, but they're very graphic about either the verbal, like what they're saying to each other, or about what they're feeling.
Yeah.
Because the other person is like, whatever,
And
then he went down on me, and they don't explain that part, but then they're like, and I was soaring through the whatever. So you get the picture that she's like having a nice orgasm, and you're like, okay, I can get behind that. But if you don't get like the mental emotions, you don't get the physical descriptions, and you don't get any dirty talk, I'm like, what are we here for? Hand holding?
What are we here for?
Because honestly, I did not choose to read a book from like the new adult fiction section. I wanted a romance novel. And this is in the romance novel section, and I don't know that it deserves to be.
This kind of reminds me of like the religious romance novels. The ones you read accidentally because you don't realize that it's a religious romance, and you're like almost to the end of the book and you're like, what the fuck?
Totally.
I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah. Even like the whole thing, I kept thinking, oh, it's gonna build.
Yeah.
And
I thought they were definitely gonna build. And then they had fake sex. Like the sex that they should have had, the over-the-top sex, was just fake sex.
Yeah, because they wanted her parents to hear it.
Yeah.
And which is, I'll just say my favorite line because it's
in that section?
from that moment. And so they get to her childhood home, and her parents have been giving her a hard time about them having sex and stuff. And he sank down on the mattress. Wow, your parents are, oh, trust me, I know. It's just, is it weird that I feel like I'm letting down Betsy and Terrence by not having sex with you tonight? And I'm like, yes, you are. This is a romance novel. You've known each other 3 days. You should be fucking in the shower at their house. You should be fucking in the bed of her childhood home, doing all these dirty things to her she wanted to do as a high schooler but was too afraid to do. Like, if the parents go out of town, you should be fucking on the patio overlooking the beach. Like, you're in a nice-ass house.
First of all, I can't even sleep in the same room as my partner at my parents' house.
Really?
Oh, really? I mean, if I'm not married, I can't even look.
Oh, their choice, not yours.
My parents' choice, not mine, right? So I'm thinking, if my parents are like, you can do whatever you like, you better believe I'm going to do whatever I like.
Absolutely. Plus, you're on vacation.
There's no rules on vacation.
So you don't have as many obligations, so your mind is clear.
Shower, tables, floor, not tile.
Not tile.
That's
not carpet.
That's hard.
It gets on my butt.
Yeah.
My butt gets rough.
It's hard. But on a good couch or chair. Chairs are really supportive.
Great.
I really enjoy chairs. Like a good dining room chair, too, is really solid.
Beds,
Bed, corner of the bed.
Yeah.
Just holding the bed. I mean, so many options.
I know. And I'm like, the options aren't. I mean, if they had started faking sex and then that carried on to real sex.
That would have been great.
That would have been really cute.
That would have been a good choice.
I
feel like the author could have made some better choices here. That could have, like, I had high hopes for it in the beginning. The first scene, everything, I had high hopes. Mm-hmm. And then it just kind of went downhill for me.
Yeah.
And I just kept getting more disappointed as the book went on.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, if you want to talk about the characters, Bawdy, Bawdy, he was way too whiny for me. I just have this thing about adults whining about their parents and their parent problems. Like, go to therapy, talk about it with your therapist. But when you're an adult complaining about your parents, like, it's not a good look for me.
Yeah, like, I was, I guess, sort of okay with it when you find out that, like, his dad is not his dad and has been lying to him and mom's really alive. I was like, okay, like, but I did feel like Bawdy and Breeze were not of equal importance. So this whole book is about Bawdy and Bawdy's problems and Bawdy's dad and Bawdy's new mom and Bawdy's new brothers. And Bruce is just along for the ride.
Yeah.
The only time that they call back to her life at all is when Mason talks to her and tells her he just overdosed. And she's like, I feel like I should come. And he's like, no, it's cool. My friend's taking care of me.
Did that feel kind of out of left field for you?
Yes, because the book's not about her.
Like, I was like, whoa, this overdose, her friend overdose, it really feels like like it didn't need to be included in this book. Not saying...
Or she needed to be like, yo, Bawdy, I gotta fucking go.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He's like, no, you don't need to come. I'm like, if that's your best homie, he just said that he overdosed.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care if you
I would
don't want
immediately
me
be
to
like,
come.
Bawdy, get your black card out and get me a fucking private jet to this man's house because
that's the
he
sexiest thing about
overdosed.
him is his black card.
Yeah. Let's get your black card.
Hey, can you pull out your black card?
Your
for me?
Amazon, you don't have any identification, but get your black card out.
You got Amazon Prime?
Yeah, I thought it was in like, that was like a totally weird, it was just weird because again, the book is not about her.
Yeah.
And so much to the point that her main reason for not wanting to be with him is because the book's not about her. And
right.
she's going to get lost in his life.
You're right.
In
That's
his crazy
literally-
mom and his new brothers and his like famous pop star life. That's her whole point, is that I'm going to get lost in your life.
Honestly, that was for me her only saving grace, is that she was like, you know what? This is not going to work for me.
Yeah.
Deuces.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, of course, she immediately regrets it and is crying and whatever, which, I mean, she did love him. So I can totally, understand that.
I mean,
but-
it's like, I tried to liken it to like one of the NSYNC boys, when
I was thinking Justin Timberlake. This is like the only I was like,
Yeah.
okay, if it was Justin Timberlake and you met him and like fell in love with him after he saved you from a burning inferno, like, okay, I could fall in love with Justin Timberlake.
I kind of think of it as like, I was thinking of the Jonas brother that has like the reality show, and his wife is like the most regular person ever.
Oh, yeah,
I don't remember
the older one.
The older one.
Who's not famous, that's why we don't know his name.
Well, they're back together again, so I feel like they weren't working as a...
They're back together
so now they're like, we were better as a unit.
Yeah. I think the other two brothers felt bad. They're like, oh, we still have huge careers and you're...
And well, come back in.
Come on back,
We
bro.
love you, brother.
Well.
But like, I think her name is Danny. I watched the reality show for like a minute or whatever, and she was like just so regular. I mean, she was cute, but she was just very regular.
Yeah.
And I kind of saw them as this couple. Like they kind of set in my mind as like surrogates. And it's like you have this person who's so big, whatever, and have this limelight, and she's kind of didn't want really a big part of it. She was more shy and whatever. So I did like that she said deuces. And then she only well, I don't know if she only took him back because he left his career, but he made the change that she needed for this to work out at the end, which I liked that aspect of it, because I hate when people they're like, we got to get back together, so I'm going to disregard all these concerns I had, for the love, because we all know love ain't lasting.
Yeah.
Love's just a starter match.
I agree with that 100%. Like he did say, oh, okay, I'm going to quit the boy band. Which is not to say, like, I feel like maybe they needed one line saying, like, it's going to take a few years before the crazy fans leave me alone. But
it also wrapped up too neat and tidy for me that way.
So neat and tidy.
It's like, I'm going to leave the boy band. Okay, well, I'm going to get back together. Okay, in the end.
Yeah. Oh, I finally realized my ex is a douche because I'm in love with you.
Yeah.
Even though he's clearly the worst person alive, just based on that 4 paragraphs he was in. And
they made him like, I didn't like that. They made him like
a
depth douche.
No, yeah. He had like slicked back hair, tattoos, and went to the gym all the time.
And everything he said to her was like the most douchey thing ever, which made him like so...
He treated his wife, her cousin, terribly.
Yeah, but it was like, so it was very one-dimensional, and I didn't like that they treated him like that. I'm like, I feel like you're force-feeding me to dislike this character heavily.
Yeah.
And I feel like you could be more creative.
Yeah, I mean, I already disliked him because he cheated on her. He could have just been like, sorry, I fell in love with someone else.
I felt like it could have just been an awkward situation that they were in. It didn't have to. He didn't have to
hit on her in front of his wife. Also, did you notice that the daughter was right there?
Yeah,
she had been reaching for a brownie, and then the dad comes over and hits on Breeze, and no mention of the daughter being there or leaving ever happens. She's just witnessing this whole distressing parental situation.
Parenthood.
Yeah. I was like, where's the daughter? At some point I thought, oh, Breeze is going to say, oh, me and your daughter are going to eat a cupcake. Bye. And like leave with her or something. Yeah. But
also there was like, you know, and maybe just because this is how I am, and even in the last couple of weeks I've had to just make deuces on conversations. Like they're having this mad awkward conversation and Breeze is like, oh no, now I'm stuck in this conversation. And in my mind I was like, this is when I would have about faced. Yeah. I would have just grabbed my cookie, about faced, and walked right out of the room. Like
I would have been like, what's that, Grandma? Oh, yeah, I gotta
go. Like I would not have let that conversation go as long as it did.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe that's a new adult thing.
I think also like they wanted Bawdy to have the chance to save her.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Also, if like, not that I don't appreciate that my husband loves me and that he likes to tell people he loves me, but if he like laid out our whole relationship in front of my entire extended family, I'd be like, this is TMI for everyone. Like, you could have just told me the 8 times I asked you to talk to me privately about this. Like, I don't want everyone to hear about this. When you write this song about me that I know you wrote, then they can hear about it. Right now, I don't need to be.
Like, stuff like that reminds me, like if you know me, right? So, like, if a guy comes to me and serenades me, starts singing to me, then he don't know me, because I will immediately walk away. There's nothing more uncomfortable to me than that. I'm a like privately affectionate person. So that, like, you can just feel that in your neck, like the awkward feeling, like when you're watching The Office and you're just like,
Yeah, so like, I don't know if you ever had friends like this, but I feel like in college, you know, you had the guy who always had his guitar and all the girls were always around him. I was always like, ew, ugh,
no.
I don't want any part of being around you, which maybe also is telling to why we both did not like this book that much, because he is like a guitarist and she listens to his music and loves it. And I appreciate music, I guess, but also I don't know that you being a good songwriter would make me fall in love with you.
Yeah.
They do have, okay, to be fair, they do have some really cute, like, repartee moments. But again, that was, like, something I would find in, like, a novel, not something I want in a romance as the only thing. It has to be coupled with fiery sex. It has to be leading to...
I felt like they didn't say... I didn't feel like they talked enough about anything substantial that would lead to this deep love. And I felt like he was so tragic that, like, for me, if I met him, I would say, ooh, homie, you got too much going on. I think I'm gonna just back out.
You should lock that up before you try and lock me up.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I button all that up.
Yeah.
You know, the drama with, the one thing that turned me off so hard, I mean, I could not get behind this so bad, was that his dad had taken over his career and he was being babysat by his dad and he had to hide from his dad. And if you're a grown-ass man hiding from your parents, there's no way you're going to get any play. That literally turned me off. He's like, can't get away from my dad, gotta hide from my dad, can't call my dad, don't want him to know, I'm going to pretend to still be dead so that my dad can't find me.
Yeah.
I mean, how wussy ass? I was just like, what?
Yeah, and the whole, like, mom, like, I felt like the whole lost mother, turns out she's a drug addict still, and the dad was really not his dad, and saved him from her, which is great, but then lied to him about it, not great. And then she's still a drug addict and is blackmailing the dad, but then has these other 2 sons, and then you have, like, this tragic, like, that, like, realization, like, oh my God, this kid could have been me if my dad hadn't saved me. And it all wrapped up so neatly, because at the end, he has now adopted the brother. Which, did you notice that he adopted the brother, but then him and Breeze left on a year-long road trip around without him? And I'm like, and then he literally says, and my dad has helped him the way he helped me. So I'm like, you adopted him for your dad to raise, which is rude. And at the end, the kid is, like, no longer angry, no longer on drugs, even though it's been, like, no time. And...
because counseling is...
yeah, and then did you notice at the end that they had a baby?
They had a baby?
They had a baby. Did you not?
Did I miss the baby?
Yeah.
Maybe because I was, like, hoping for it to end so badly that I missed the baby?
No, it's only, like, one line. Hold on, let me pull it up.
Read it.
Let me pull it up. It's right at the very, very end.
I think I disregarded the baby. So just full disclosure, I listened to the audiobook and Bridget read the book. Yes. On a Kindle.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to read you the last page because obviously you missed it. Okay, so they got married in Vegas. When you knew, you knew. And we saw no reason to wait. Of course, our impromptu decision hadn't been a popular one in the parent circle, so we appeased them with a more traditional ceremony a few months later. But that didn't change the fact that 2 months after we met, Breeze and I were married. And now, just 11 months after our Vegas nuptials, so that's 1 year and 1 month since they met, she and I were walking hand in hand down the hallway of the home we owned together, which you bought. Let's be realistic, you're rich. And as it's not in there, that was an aside. As we reached the door, I drew Breeze into my arms and kissed her. My wife, and now the mother of my child. Walking into the room, we gazed down at our 5-day-old baby boy. Hey, Alexander, I said, stroking my finger over his smooth cheek. We've got some people we want you to meet. And I'm like, look, I have had a child, and 5 days later, I wasn't ready to have a fucking party at my house, nor was I squeezing back into my jeans that she was. That's why when she made the comment about.
Though? Were you strolling down the hallway?
Hand in hand?
Hand in hand.
No, we were sleeping alternate schedules. We were like passed out on the couch together. I had a C-section though, so I was like literally like could not move around very much at 5 days. But so that's why when she squeezed back into her jeans, he was like, they look great on you. And she's like, right answer. It's because she had a baby.
Gotcha.
And I'm like, but probably 5 days later, your uterus is fucking huge still, so you couldn't squeeze back in your pants.
Let me tell you right now.
And
I'm
also,
a postpartum doula. I have never seen not one family I worked for stroll hand in hand.
I mean, not at 5 days. I mean, we did. Eventually, we did.
Not at day 5. There was
but not having 20 people over.
No.
At 5 days old, you're not gonna let your baby get exposed to that many germs.
No.
Absolutely. And 5 days. Okay, it takes 10 minutes to make a baby. So that means 3 months after they met, 1 month after their Vegas wedding, she got knocked up.
Well, she needs that baby check. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I mean, they were having sex sensually, lovingly. And also, did you notice that they used a condom like the first 2 times and then stopped using condoms? Did you notice that?
I didn't know where they didn't mention the condoms again. I was like, is it just an implied condom? They don't want to say it in the text.
Stopped. I think they just started raw dogging.
I'm gonna need you not to look me in the eyeballs, straight in the eyeballs when you say that.
I think they were raw dogging. I mean, I'm just saying, she let them in. She let them all the way in. But yeah, I had to reread that last page because I was like, wait a minute, when the fuck did we learn they had a baby? Because there's no mention of them calling like her parents grandma, grandpa, or his dad, grandpa. Like, there's no lead up to that. It's the literal last sentence of this book.
Well, I kind of find like on at least on Audible, which is where I read everything, the authors say HEA at the end of like their books, which is a happily ever after. So that you know that if you're going to read a book, it's going to wrap up nice and tidy. Right. Or whatever.
But I think if this is the new adult fiction, I feel like this is too tidy because they're supposed to be 25 years old and now they're having a baby. And granted, they don't have any financial stress because he's a millionaire.
Yeah.
So I guess that, and people obviously still occasionally have kids at 25. But I just felt like it was a really weird ending for this particular story.
Yeah.
Like, it would have made more sense if, like, the little, like, rat dog that bites people was their, like, new baby. And they, like, wanted to have kids in the future.
Yeah.
But
and it also wrapped up pretty tidy about his father, who owns everything that he does. Mm-hmm. He's like, yeah, you're fired as my manager, but that he still owns
like the band
and everything and all your assets. Yeah. So it was weird to me because I was like, the dad's like, oh, okay. Yeah. And I was like, that's really tidy. That's
yeah, super tidy. Well, I mean, he died, so his dad had a real come to Jesus. Yeah. He thought he was dead. So.
I guess so. He had real tears, but still, I mean, I don't know.
Everything was super tidy. Like the mom gave away rights to the older son.
Yeah,
for money. And I'm like, all right, she's a crackhead, so maybe. But yeah, it was all real neat.
It was real neat and
too
tidy.
Neat for me.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the best thing about this book is just the cover of it. I mean, since I hit a certain age, I just like to see like buff guys, good looking guys, and I want to like ogle them like my auntie did when I was a kid. I always remember my aunt being like, ooh, delicioso, every time she would see like a buff dude, and I would be so embarrassed. And I'd be like, what is the big deal? And now I'm her. Now I like see a dude, I'm just like, ah. So I like a pretty cover. I'm okay with this, even though it's the same as like all covers. So it's a pretty, especially.
But it's also very PG.
It is,
which should have maybe been an indication to me that we're not going to get down to Pound Town that much, because it's only like his chest up. You don't even see the full abs. You see no like V pointers.
Would have been good.
Yeah,
abs would have been good. I wonder who this model is. We should find out.
He's attractive though.
We should track down who these models are.
And speaking of the cover, like the title, I did not like
the wind,
only because she used it in the actual thing like 3 times when she said, "Your name is Breeze, like the wind," and I was like, no one says that. What a weird. And then I was like, oh, I guess that's where the title's from. Way to be subtle.
Well, I'm so mad at you right now. I like when the title tells me more about what's going to happen in the book, or the theme of the book, because I read so many books and sometimes I want to go back and reread them, and it's better to know, it's like, what was that one about the Count? And then the book is called like Count something, so
the Dark Count, and you're like, nailed it,
right? Got it.
The Blood Prince.
It's the same with music. Like when I name a song, I usually want to name it the hook. Whatever the hook of that song is, because that's all anybody ever knows. They're like, Jessie. And you're like, oh, yeah, Jessie's girl. Got it. Yeah. Boom. That's,
Yeah, I totally agree. I actually get mad, speaking of music, I get mad when you have to, I'm like trying out all these different lyrics to figure out what a title of a song is, because I never remember the title. And you just never get there. And then I have to Google like the whole lyrics of a song and put in like a paragraph for it to tell me what song it is.
And it's some obscure title
stupid title. I'm like, what's wrong with you? Make this easy for me. You're the only one I want. It's in the song. Just tell me it up. So on a scale of, McDreamy to McSteamy.
McDreamy to McSteamy.
Where are we at in this book?
So on a scale of like, I've gone kind of back and forth on this, but really it's like a one eggplant for me. It's like yeah.
I mean, it's 100%. I mean, it's
McDreamy.
It's McDreamy, but without the eggplant.
Yeah,
because McDreamy and Meredith, they get down. And this was very vanilla for me. My notes actually say vanilla as fuck. That's what my notes say.
Oh my god! Vanilla
AF.
Yes.
Their hashtag for this episode, vanilla AF. Like out of control.
Yeah.
Vanilla and infrequent and not detailed. Yeah. Because when I was looking and I was like, okay, but like, we want to get to if you're someone who likes to maybe skim through a book, find a few choice pieces to read before bed, perhaps. This is not the book for you.
It's not the book
this
for
is
you.
A terrible. Normally we're gonna like call out the page numbers. You can go to our show notes. You can check them out. We'll tell you exactly where to go, exactly which parts we like. And in this one, I honestly would just tell you to skip it.
Yeah,
because it's not steamy at all.
Not at all. So I mean, if you like not steamy, if you're a big like Debbie Macomber fan, this book is for you.
Yes.
But if that doesn't do it for you, if you need a little late night titillation,
yes,
this ain't the book for you.
This is not the book.
But we got some recommendations for those, so
yes, 100%.
Go to the website. We got you.
Yes, definitely check it out. The other thing about this book that just popped into my mind that wrapped up neatly was his band members.
Oh.
He leaves the band, and everyone's like, I was going to leave too. I was going to leave too. I was going to leave too. I already left. And I was like, the fuck is going on? Because usually that like almost, I mean, who knows what's going on behind the scenes of when these bands like decide to go their separate ways. But I would hazard a guess that there's at least one person who always wants the band to stay together and make that money.
So you bring up like such a good point, right? So when I read that part, I was like, is this a series? So I actually went to look and see if this was a series because one of his bandmates is like, I'm having a baby by this person that was never introduced. So we had no idea who he was talking about, you know? And then one was like, oh, I'm leaving the band already to do this other thing. And it read like these books had already come out. These were characters that I was already introduced to, and then I was being updated on their story in this book. That's what it read like to me. So I was like, this there must be at least 2 other books to go along with this. If he's talking about, oh, you know, I don't know, Renee and I are having a baby now, you know, like pending a DNA test.
Wait, but then it turns out it wasn't his baby.
You know, oh, it wasn't his baby?
Yeah,
Okay.
the last chapter we find out when he goes to their house and they wrap it all up with the bow. It wasn't his baby, but some other chick is there and she's knocked up and it is his baby. And I was like, what is happening?
I was just like, I was like, why are we being like...
I mean, he's the slutty band friend, I guess, is the moral of his story.
I guess so. But it just seemed like that we should have already been introduced to their story and that this was an update. Otherwise, to me, it was kind of extraneous and like, I didn't know why we were getting that information.
Yeah, and I also thought like it would have been nicer if one person was like, I really don't want to do this. You guys are fucking me over, and like and then came back around.
Yeah, that'd have been real talk.
Yeah. But that didn't happen.
That didn't happen at all.
A lot of things didn't happen in this book. You know, but that said, if you did like this book, you know, we've got a hookup for your hookup. We can recommend a few titles that if you enjoyed this one, that you may also enjoy.
And on Audible, there are quite a few people who enjoyed this book. It's got 4 out of 5 rating on Audible. I don't know what it has over on Kindle. Do you know that?
I don't even know how to look that up. I just got my Kindle for the first time. How do you look that up?
So on Audible, it has a 4 out of 5 rating.
It's 4.18 on Goodreads.
It has 2,029 ratings on here. And I mean, to me, I think people are either delusional or this is padded. But you never know. Everybody has their thing. So if somebody just out there reading those really vanilla religious romances, I feel like this fits kind of under that. This will probably push the envelope, you know, get your purse, you know.
I honestly don't know how to check on Kindle. I think it's linked to Goodreads.
Oh, is it?
And if it's not, please someone tell me in the comments how to figure that out.
But if you like this book, I really want to know why you liked it, because I really want to understand, and that's no judgment.
Actually, I know a few people who liked this book. And I can tell you what they liked about it. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Nancy Lavallo on Goodreads gives it 5 stars. And Nancy said, from start to finish, I loved, with a capital L, everything about this book. Bawdy and Breeze were meant to be. It truly was fate. Somehow the stars and a wildfire blazed to bright these... Oh, it says bright these souls together, but I think she meant bring these souls together. I loved Breeze's parents. I want parents like that. Bawdy wanted parents like that. But yes, there was a but. Where's the epilogue? I'm very disappointed the author left out a lot of unanswered questions. And I want those questions answered. What about Bawdy's career? What about Breeze's BFF Bengtsson? Mm-hmm. What happened to Evan and Jonah? But still gave it 5 stars, despite having a significant amount of questions about what's going on in this book. I do want to point out that Mason was at the wrap-up party at the end of this book. And he was possibly falling in love with Bawdy's bandmate, who was gay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And
Evan and Jonah, I mean, maybe she didn't read the last chapter, because Evan was at the house. They adopted him. And Jonah was with his grandparents and is happy. And Bawdy is now making a record of his solo songs, which he's been working on.
I'm legitimately going to have to go listen to the last chapter of the book again, because I don't feel like I read all of this stuff. Like, as you're saying this, I'm like, I just finished this book. I don't remember some of this stuff happening.
Well, maybe it's not in the audiobook. Maybe the last chapter is not in the audiobook.
Which I'm very curious about, because it's unabridged. So I'm going to double check to make sure. Maybe I just zoned out or something and I just totally missed it. But, like, That's interesting to me.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't have all this wrapped up information. I have and the narration for the audiobook. So I felt like the narrators they weren't like stupendous, but they also weren't bad. So I felt like they were just solid narrators. It was just kind of like, I accept you, but
Okay.
I didn't feel like they added anything to the story.
Okay.
Because I've heard awesome narrators. I've heard such a gamut of narrators at this point that a good narrator can really put you in or take you out. For me, they were just right down the middle, and like the guy had a nice timbre to his voice. I think both of them were like right down the middle for me. Solid narration.
Yes, because we should say that we are veteran romance readers. This is
Veterans.
not our first book. We will also be not only reading new books, but also going back to a few of our favorite series, a few of our favorite characters, a few of our favorite novels, maybe one-offs. Most of them are series, though, probably. And you are a audiobook romance listener, and I am a book reader. I've actually never listened to a audiobook romance. I have read, though, out loud to my sister on drives across the country entire romance novels many times. So I could be that person.
That is awesome.
Yeah. I can read 17 hours in a row in case you're ever needing anyone to do it in a pinch.
I should say that I did produce audiobooks for a while. They won't be any that we are talking about on this podcast, but did produce them. So I have a bit of knowledge as to like the production and whatnot. And this was solid. So the production was solid. I mean, Audible sponsored this production, so they had Audible Studios to do it. And Audible, you'll find, has the same narrators coming like over and over and over again, like Andy Arndt. I don't know how you say her name. And there's this couple that narrate a lot of things. The other thing that in the last couple years has happened with audiobooks is this idea of two narrators. It's going between the female and the male perspective. So there's a female identifying narrator and a male identifying narrator. I don't always like it. Sometimes it takes me out of the story to have two different narrators. I rather
even if each chapter is from a different point of view.
Even if each chapter is from a different point of view. For some reason, I get into a hypnosis with a voice. And when a new voice comes in, it takes me out of the story.
Mm-hmm.
If the narrators are really good, then it's kind of the opposite, where I really appreciate that there's two narrators. But they have to be really dope narrators.
That's why I don't listen to any audiobooks. The only ones that I've listened to that I enjoyed are biographies read by the person who it's about.
Yeah.
Because then it's just fun. Like Amy Poehler reading Amy Poehler is, I mean Tina Fey reading Tina Fey. That's just gold, obviously. But I find it very hard to not be out of it when they're reading, because I'm like, well, that's not how I'd read it, or that's not how I hear it in my mind, or I just don't like your voice, or I don't like his voice, or I don't like whatever. I don't know, whatever. It's very, very hard for me to listen to a narrative audiobook.
But you haven't done it that much yet.
That's true. You could probably point me in the direction of the better narrators, which maybe would help, because maybe the few that I tried to listen to were just not great narrators.
Yeah, they're terrible. That's how I got into production, because anybody can narrate a book on Audible. I mean, if you have an iPhone with a voice memo button, which is, I listened to a book that had such a terrible narration that I Googled how to become a producer of audiobooks. And that's how I found out that anybody can do it as long as you have the right equipment. Now they have standards. In the beginning, when it first started through ACX, they did not have the highest of standards. Now they have the highest of audio standards, so you're getting better stuff. But in the beginning, it was the wild, wild west out there.
I want to read one more because I do feel like I would like to have an opposing opinion on this.
Yes.
2 hours, which this is Kimberly Cheeseman, and she gave it 4 stars. And the 1 second or part of it I would like to read is that the sex scenes are not too much for a young reader. And for me as a 51-year-old, I found it refreshing not to have the sex in my face as many stories do now. Don't get me wrong, I love some good old scenes, but sometimes it's just refreshing to have more story. And I totally agree with you. There was a lot of story compared to the amount of sex scene. However, I just didn't think it was a great story, so I didn't feel like I was carried away by the story enough to ignore the lack of sex scenes in a romance novel.
Exactly.
But I do appreciate, Kimberly, that you enjoyed this and had a differing opinion.
I do sort of agree with that opinion. Like when a story is so good, sometimes I do want less sex scenes because I'm like, where are they going? What's happening next? And I know a story is bad when I'm skipping pages to find the sex scene. That's already the trigger for me that the story did not hit its mark. It didn't get to the point fast enough or concise enough. And I found this book to be really convoluted and redundant. And that's why the guy, Bawdy, came off so whiny to me, because it was just like always about the parents. I'm gonna get a therapist and build a bridge.
Yeah,
you know?
I was like half skimming some of the pages, like, where's the story going?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even though I know I have to talk about it on the podcast, I'm still like, fast forward. All right, okay. Now I know where the sex is happening. Now I'll go back and I'll wait and listen. But yeah, it was very. This was not the book. I'm slightly bummed that this is the first book out the gate, but.
But maybe it's good because we're really getting into a discussion of romance as opposed to just being waxing poetic about the sex.
Exactly. You're right.
I'm not right. I wish it was better. I mean, if you loved this book, the author did write a series of books called the Cake series. There are 5 books, and they all have much better ratings than this one, even though this one has 4 stars. They're all at like 4.5 stars, 4.25 stars. And they have like 8,000 reviews, 2,000 reviews, 1,500 reviews. I mean, people are really eating up that series.
Yeah, and these reviews on Audible, I get that a lot. Like a lot of people who didn't like this book reference how much they loved the Cake series. Mm-hmm. So if you did kind of like this book, go read the Cake series.
Yes. And a couple other books, which I have not read, but are in a similar vein of perhaps being a little bit more on the story versus sex side, a little bit more of the sort of touchy-feeling. Actually, maybe I shouldn't recommend any books that we haven't read. I don't know if I honestly don't read a lot of books like this.
Yeah, but we will now.
So, you know what? I'm not going to recommend you any books. What I'm going to recommend is that if you loved this book, that is wonderful. Check out her other books. If you hated this book, don't read any of her other ones, and let's find a new author for next time.
Yeah, let's do that. And if you did love this book, write in, let us know why you loved it, and also give us your recommendations, because somebody else who likes this book would probably like your recommendations.
Very true. Very true and well said.
We don't know everything.
We don't. But we know a lot.
We're just here to, tell you about romance at a glance. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Until next time, dear friends, let your books be your lover
and your hand be your best friend.
Thanks for hanging in with us, romance readers. Head over to Instagram to continue chatting with us. We're super friendly. We want to cackle with you. We want to know what your favorite sex scene was, and we need more book recommendations. If you want to read along with us, go to our website, romanceataglance.com, to see what we're reading next. And we'll see you next podcast.